Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tera.
Tera, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about an author named Sariah Wilson and her very first book that is romantasy called A Tribute of Fire. Her second book, I just discovered after reading this one, is out July 8th, guys.
Happy birthday to
me! Grr. I was really hoping that we were going to get to read back-to-back books because...
Not quite.
Spoiler alert, guys, there's a cliffhanger in this one. So if you do not like cliffhangers and you would like to wait to read this one until July.
Yeah, boo horrors. It's one of those things that you just have to accept it at this point. If you're reading a romantasy in the series, just expect a cliffhanger.
Yeah, but I do appreciate the year over year in this because I made Sandra read a Sariah Wilson book because she's one of those authors that I can read at any point in time because she has books out there that are just uplifting. And I believe, Sandra, I don't remember what book you decided to read, but it was one of her romantic comedies.
This book is super interesting. And I know that you just returned from your trip to Europe, and so you're into all things Greek mythology. I mean, you're always that way, but
I did appreciate that in this because I was not expecting that. I tend to not read what a book is about until I'm reading it. And so I did not know that this one had any Greek mythology, and it was hardcore. There was a lot.
Much.
Everything, including the names and the places, and there were a couple of the myths just full out.
Did you read the author's note at all when you finished?
No.
Do you mind if I take a moment to read? It's like half a page, but it's really the idea that sparked the idea for this book. The idea that sparked the idea. It's the idea for this book. And it reads, the idea for this book came from a Wikipedia entry. A few years ago, I was writing my book, The Seat Filler. Have you read that one?
Mm-hmm. I like that one a lot.
And it was going to include a line about the Greek mythological character Cassandra. She was the Trojan princess who rejected Apollo's advances, and he cursed her to always see the future but to never be believed. She tried to tell the Trojans there were Greeks inside that big wooden horse, but no one would listen. I wasn't sure if I had used the reference correctly, so I quickly looked her up. As I read what happened to her, there was a note about Ajax the Lesser assaulting her in Athena's temple, and how his nation, Locris, then had to provide 2 maidens to recompense for his vile actions. Athena wanted the Greeks to punish him then and there, but they would not, which was why she had their ships blown off course and destroyed after the Trojan War ended. You might like to know that Ajax did receive a terrible end. Athena borrowed Zeus's lightning bolt and hurled it at Ajax's ship, killing almost everyone on board. Clinging to a rock while the seas raged, Ajax boasted that not even the gods could best him. Poseidon, particularly affronted by this claim, split the rock in half and then pulled Ajax into the ocean and drowned him. The Locrian maidens crossed that same sea repeatedly and were supposed to try and reach the temple of Athena to serve, quote, but only if they made it there alive. That one line in the Wikipedia entry struck me hard, and the idea for the story immediately started to form in my head.
If you guys know much about Greek and Roman gods, they are a vengeful sort, right? But it still strikes me, and this was one of the texts that I sent Sandra right off the bat, is that the man did something wrong to a woman, but the women are the ones forced to pay for it. And it still struck me with the woman goddess being the one behind it too. I don't understand why the women are always the ones to pay for all of the bad behavior of men.
When you sent that text, it was so perfect. Your wording, the comic humor of it, if I can pull it up. So even in the book, women are paying for men's crimes against women. Send the men out for a tribute. Damn.
Yes.
Yes. But it makes you wonder, Tera, because obviously that's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And could Sariah Wilson possibly be subverting expectations here? You know what I mean? But we'll have to wait and see. I don't even know how many books are going to be in this, but can't wait.
Yeah, I loved all of the mythology. And for all of you Taylor Swift fans out there, the song Cassandra on her latest album, Tortured Poet Society, dives into the same story. So she wrote it based off of Cassandra and Greek mythology.
Not gonna lie, I was listening to that on loop earlier today. I was getting in the mood.
Okay, so if you don't know much about Greek mythology, so I'm going to dive further into Cassandra's story because it does come up a lot. So Cassandra's story takes place around the Trojan War, Odysseus, the Iliad kind of time frame, which our country, at least from what I was hearing in the thing, they call them the Iliad. Right? Okay, so we got our Trojan place that is responsible for taking the woman who in Greek mythology was Helen. In the story, though, it was Menelaus, which Helen's husband in Greek mythology is Menelaus. So they even flopped the genders, gender reverse that. But so Cassandra turns down Apollo, and that is how she gets cursed. Right? Because Apollo is the man whore of the gods, well, minus Zeus. I mean, they're all pretty much man whores, but he thinks that women should just fall all over themselves for him. And Cassandra made the mistake of not following through on falling all over herself for him. And so he cursed her to always knowing the truth, but having nobody believe her. And so when she told her dad, who was the king of Troy, and she is Paris' sister, that the Greeks were going to win because of the thing that Paris just did, her dad did not believe her. Thus, the Trojan War happened, and the Troy the Trojans, the Trojans lost. But her story didn't end there. And I am waiting for this to happen in this book because her story didn't end there. Ajax did his thing with her, but then she was taken back by Agamemnon to his house as his sex slave. His wife did not take kindly to that and the fact that he killed his daughter to make good wins for their selling to Troy in the first place. And she murdered him in her bathtub, right? And then their son murdered her for murdering him.
Everything is so Greek drama.
Yes. So I'm waiting for that part because, as I said, this ended on a cliffhanger, which may be going towards that side.
I mean, before we jump into spoilers, if you're looking for another book to kind of scratch that Greek mythology itch, Tera, there's a book that came out recently on April 8th called Firebird by Juliet Cross.
Okay.
And this is not a spoiler, but the prologue of the book is a twist on, it's kind of a mashup twist on the story of Medusa and the story with Ajax in the temple. But here it's the temple of Minerva, and Medusa is the one that's assaulted on her altar. And she has two sisters, and they come by these sorcery powers.
Well, you do know that Minerva is the other name for Athena, right? Like the Roman name.
It's one Greek and one Roman. Yep. Okay, yeah. You'll love it.
Okay, so not spoilers, but we get introduced to a goddess, right? And she's like the parallel of Athena in the Greek story, right? But I also, like, they keep calling her the goddess of, like, earth and whatever. And so for half the book, I was envisioning Gaia, who is Mother Earth, right? She is the goddess that produced all of the other gods. She was the Titan, whatever. But halfway through it seemed more like she was Demeter, who was Persephone's mom. And her daughter in the book gets kidnapped. She has twins, which Demeter didn't. She only had Persephone. Her daughter gets kidnapped and married off to the god of war, who in Greek mythology is Ares or Mars. But Demeter gets married off to Hades, gets kidnapped by Hades. So there's like some parallel, but not. And so I'm trying to figure out who these gods and goddesses and these people playing around in the book are meant to be. But I think she's mixing multiple goddesses together and multiple like things, because really the twins in Greek mythology are Apollo, who is the one who cursed Cassandra, and Artemis, who is the huntress. That also like is throwing me. I'm like, wait, who? Who is this person? Who?
It's interesting because you talk about Demeter, and there's the old soldier, the Daemonian soldier guy that's training her, Demaratus. And so there's like that there. And then later there's the Artemisia character, who is very much, I could see being that hunter kind of personality.
Yes.
But we'll get into it. Give us a spoiler warning.
Okay. Spoiler warning, guys. We're about to talk actual what happens in this book, not Greek mythology.
But there's so much intermingling there.
Yes.
But we start in the country of Locris, in the capital of Nerix. And we meet Leah and her sisters and her family. You want to talk about how things are in this country?
So it is very much Hunger Games like. Everything's dead. Nothing will grow. They've been cursed because of the actions of their ancestor Ajax, the lesser. They're kind of a poor country in wealth, but they are very, very rich in personality and love. Because
what matters here?
We get introduced to Leah, who is the main character throughout this book, but we also get introduced to her sister, who was an adopted sister that just kind of like shipwrecked on their like coast, and they all begged to keep her, which I think is adorable.
I know you would.
And
Quinn.
Then we find out that she had a brother too, who we don't know for sure what happened to him, and that's where the Odyssey comes in for me, because I was like, wait, Odysseus left at the war, right? Got lost and didn't come back for years, like decades later. And I'm like, maybe he is. And then we meet her sister, Callisto. And Callisto is betrothed to a nobleman of, I don't remember what country that nobleman was from.
Are you talking about someone besides the prince?
Yeah, because she was betrothed to the prince, but then when her brother died, she has to become queen of Lucris.
I can't remember.
And so she's married off, and he's the one that ends up being a bad dude and beating the maid and Leah.
Prince Lycaon. I can't say his name.
I don't know. She's betrothed to that dude. And then Leah is betrothed to Prince Alexandros, and he is the Ilian prince.
I love the rumor that he's rumored to be like a beast or just so ugly.
Well, maybe on the inside.
Who knows?
But so we meet her family. They're lovely, lovely people, and you get to feeling really bad for them that this curse is still going on and still tainting their lives.
Yeah. So the Prince Lycaon, whatever his name is, he comes to Locris to meet with the father and for this betrothal announcement or whatever to Callistos. And there's one servant, because they're so poor and everyone just kind of pulls their weight. And so no one is really dressed super richly and separated from the help, quote unquote. But the prince like backhands the maid. She's on the ground when Leah comes upon her. And then he turns around and just smacks her across the face. That part shocked me. And then is it after this that she goes like out into the courtyard to where they have one olive tree that has been around for a very long time? and sees a mysterious sailor.
And the sailor's there because they're making the sacrifice of their 2 women to go run to the temple, right?
You made me dead.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot do cardio. Sorry, bye. Just make it quick.
Well, so I mean, speaking of that, Leah has been practicing so that she can do cardio, right? She has been practicing with the commander general or whatever, right? And he has sworn his legion into secrecy to allow her to practice so that she could put her name in. Like she volunteers as tribute to go run, and Quinn gets selected too. It's and she's like,
It's
damn
fucked
it,
up.
motherfucker. Like, this was not supposed to happen.
And this is particularly bad because no one has ever survived this before.
Yeah.
From Locris, at least.
And she was banking on the fact that she could make herself survive. But now that Quinn is in, she's going to try her hardest to help Quinn. Okay, so there was I feel like it was a little bit of a throw off line or a throw out there line, whatever, about what the idea that she gives Callisto on how to stop her betrothal from going forward.
What was it?
She told her to knit something, and at the end, tell him that she would say yes at the end when she's finally knitted it, right? But at the end of the night, to take it all apart, right? That is exactly what Penelope did while she was waiting on Odysseus to get back. She said she had to knit or weave or whatever a burial or whatever for him. And as soon as she was done with that, then she would go ahead and marry somebody new. At the end of the night, she would go back and undo everything that she did so that she was never done with the burial cloth.
Okay.
And so that was even a call to Odysseus coming back. So I think the brothers is out there somewhere.
Hopefully. Haman, that's his name. I don't know about you, but when we're introduced to this sailor named Jason and his swaggering, philandering self, he's presented as this womanizer, and he's like, yeah, I have debts in all these cities that we poured at. And
he does.
It cracks me up because she's like 18, okay? I wouldn't say she's naive, but highly inexperienced, right? Never even kissed a guy. It's Tera and Sandra, circa 2003, going off to Westminster College, okay?
Yeah.
And never kissed a guy. And he gladly volunteers to pop that cherry for her. Yes, he volunteers as tribute. But when they said his name was Jason, were you like me and you're like, what main character in a romantasy book is named something like Jason? You know what I mean?
Okay, hold on. No, that's a Greek mythology there too.
But it's so boring.
Okay, but Jason and the Argonauts, I think that is a ploy to throw us off of who he is, because Jason and the Argonauts were sailors, which he obviously is, right? And they were going to get the Golden Fleece, and so a mission. He is going to try to do something, right? He is sailing for a treasure. You get what I'm throwing down here? And I think he got his treasure. I think he knew exactly what he was going for. And this is very much a spoiler, but there's some sort of fated mate or something going on between him and Leah, right? Because they're called to each other. And she is called to the dragon too, and to a couple more things throughout the story. So there's something going on. And she keeps getting called to him. And then we see also that she is having dreams of him, which we find out aren't necessarily dreams. They're real. There's something mystical about their connection, right? I think the fact that he is naming himself Jason or giving her the name Jason is a callback to that in Greek mythology, because Jason also is the husband of Medea, who goes a little nutso when he leaves her.
Who doesn't go nuts in a Greek tragedy or Greek story? His name being Jason, that could sit with me.
I think that there's more to the fact that he was called Jason than just a random white boy name.
I can sit with that. Long story short, sister Leah and Quinn have to get on this boat with Jason and the captain and sail the sea and go to Ilion.
Something like that.
And basically, as soon as they set foot off of this ship, they're going to be hunted down, okay? Like deer running through a forest and men in the city just going after them.
Yeah, like The Purge, right? It's legal. Yes. Or if you've seen the Netflix movie Jackpot, where the person wins the jackpot and it's legal now for anybody to try and kill them, right? That is what's happening to these women. All the men get to legally try and kill them. And
they don't even land in the cover of night.
They were delayed. Promised.
Yeah, they were delayed at sea because these pirates mistakenly came on board.
I don't think they mistakenly came on board, but what did you make of those? I sat here this whole book trying to piece together the mythology behind all of these things, but I cannot, for the life of me, figure out the mythology behind the pirates on the ship.
I don't know, because as we see later, it's not even just them. They were the red dirt throwing ones, right? And we find out that there are different groups, and I don't know.
But what is the red dirt? Because that comes up later too, and I think that that's something.
Is there red dirt that's in mythology that's important? Or is it just another signal of this Demeter or Gaia or whoever?
I don't know. I cannot for the life of me think of dirt in mythology that would make that important.
One thing is clear. Someone or someones
know who she
knows who her lineage is, what she is, if anything, because we don't know yet.
Oh, she's something.
Yes.
But we don't know yet. But somebody else knows. And Jason knows. As we find out, towards the end, Jason knows what and who she is, because he also is something.
There's this idea woven throughout the book that to know someone's true name holds power. and no one has spoken what the goddess's name is. I have a theory. Do you?
So also, okay, I have one thing before we jump into the goddess's name. We find out, spoiler alert, Jason's not his real name. He doesn't have a white boy name like that, right? And you just pointing that out, he's not giving his real name because he doesn't want her to have power over him.
Mm.
And he doesn't know that she's not technically giving her real name because Leah is a nickname.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thinks he has a little bit more power because he thinks he knows her name.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
There's a lot of that.
it's like,
This book had a lot of characters in it that weren't who they were.
yeah, we're hiding parts of their lives, at least.
Yes. As Leah and Quinn are racing through the city, they stop at like a hostel. They
A
stop at like
brothel.
a brothel. That's the word I'm looking for. They stop at a brothel. And Quinn's ankle is all fucked up because she's been injured and she obviously has not been working out and training for this.
No.
And they take a little nap. Tara likes her naps. They take a little nap to recharge a little bit. And then they get back out there. And Quinn makes her, Leah, promise, like, you know, one for the many. That's the last words that she says before she's ripped down by this ginger guy, this big buff ginger. And we presume that she's dead, killed. And it's heartbreaking. I was sad for her sister the whole time that this was happening. There's like weird shit going on as they're racing through the city to try and get to the temple too, though.
Yeah. Like a weird arrow that's missing its mark and a weird
and
spear.
a spear perfectly placed to walk on, use as a foothold.
Mhm.
Interesting. A bunch of knocked out guys that were waiting at the temple.
Okay, that was perfect to me. I knew that there was
Mhm.
something behind that, and I kind of knew who was behind that, but also the like when it was definitely mentioned, and yeah. So we'll come back to that, but that line cracked me up.
We see once she finally makes it into the temple, it's not that easy, right? She gets to the doors, they're fucking locked, and she's banging on the doors. Nobody's opening the doors for her, which is why she had to freaking climb the wall, use his spear that he threw to get up there, and then make a hole in the ceiling and drop down. And then they're trying to throw her out when she gets there. And then she's treated like shit.
Yeah.
She had this long hair because all of the women in her country have long hair down to like their, you know, past their ass, like their ankles, very long, beautiful hair. And they shave her fucking head.
Not
and
even
put her in
shave
these-
it, like they use knives. So
just-
I envision like not even like even nothing. She's just like
looking.
Barbie doll being taken over by a little child chopping her hair.
We've all done it. We've done it. I needed more Ken dolls, so one Barbie took
One for the
it.
team.
Yes. Yeah. But through the book, you see once she finally gets into the temple, they're assigned to an Adelphia, which is their own little sisterhood, right? 5 of them. And you see this theme of sisterhood throughout because she has so many sisters in her
Mhm.
actual life. And then she finally gets a found family of sisters.
Yeah.
And I love them.
I love them too. Her very first one that she meets is Io, right? Which is also a Greek tragedy like name. But anyway, Io, she is such a sweet little person, and she just takes her under her wing and introduces her to the rest of them, like Suri, who doesn't talk, right? Suri's the one that doesn't talk, and
Yeah.
then her other sisters, and they're just down. They're ride or die for her. And so she is trying to find this eye of the goddess.
The series name.
Which, harking back to Greek mythology, guys, in Greek mythology, there was like a special little like pearl kind of thing on Athena's statue, which if you've ever read the Percy Jackson books or watched the movie, they find that and it was like a pearl that got them to Hades, right? But anyway, so there's like that, and I'm wondering if that's the eye. Like, because like in Egyptian mythology, like the all-seeing eye was like the one that was right here, which is where that pearl was on Athena.
The third eye. Yeah. I like that.
So I'm wondering if that is what they're like, something like that is what they're going for.
The interesting thing in this book too is the eye that belonged to Locris was destroyed or stolen, and then it was broken into little pieces, and each one was given to a life mage, allegedly. And they're all men, these life mages, and they use their little piece of the eye, to do small magic, right? They can make things grow really quickly, but it's a very limited amount of magic, and they get very tired quickly, which is suspect. I'm like, are they supposed to be using this?
No,
or are they?
No, they're not. But did you also catch on that all of her sisters have a little bit of magic?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I wasn't sure if it was just for Adelphia or if it was any of the acolytes or priestesses in the temples that had some kind of affinity for an aspect of the goddess.
So they mention an affinity, right? Like they like to like be in the garden if that's their affinity. But I don't know that translates to they all have magic. I think that her group is something special.
I think so too.
I think her group is, as we discovered more about them, there is more to them than maybe the other groups.
They're very, very life-oriented, right? So Io is very much the gardener, watching things grow. Suri, she could sense like the flow of water underground, secrets under the earth, that kind of thing. You have one that's very into the animals and life like that. And then you have Artemisia, who is not in their Adelphia, and she is supposed to have an affinity for the huntress kind of side of it. But it's like, that's not really a power. You know what I mean? If you look at Artemisia, she doesn't seem to have any kind of power like that. Her affinity is the huntress power, which is just, physical prowess. And she's just a brute, really. that we've seen so far.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah, maybe there is something to that.
she's just not very nice.
No, she's a bitch.
She's holding it against Leah that she is from a different country and what Ajax did, which, I mean, the whole damn story is holding it against them and the women, what Ajax did to one of their women, but still, it's suspect. I feel like she has something too.
There's the mysterious high priestess. What is her name? Is it Theanos? The one with
Something
the
like that.
veil?
Yeah.
Who is super old, but does not sound or seem old.
Yeah. It is put out that they think maybe she is actually the goddess or something like that. There's like one line in there. Do you think she's actually the goddess or something? I don't remember, but yeah.
If she is, she seems super mean to Leah and hates her.
Yeah.
So.
But the goddess doesn't, because Leah goes and meets the goddess a couple times in her dreams, and the goddess is basically telling her, you're my chosen one. And we hear about this story that a chosen one who is marked by the goddess will come and save Ilion. I'm not really sure what they're saving it from, though. That has not been made clear. And the only person who like really knows this is Io, which we find out later. This is probably because she is a princess of Ilion.
Not the only princess hiding.
Yeah, so she may know something that we don't yet about what's going on behind the scenes in Ilion and why it needs to be saved. And I have a feeling part of that is to do with the men that are pushing the boundaries of the priestess and that temple. Because we see that men are now all of a sudden attacking the temple and not abiding by the boundaries that are set for it. And so I think that there's something behind the scenes going on that is causing them to feel like they can attack more. And we also hear that there's some inner turmoil in the royal family too, because Io mentions that her stepmother wants to marry her off to this really old guy and is not treating the children of her father well that aren't hers. And so that, I have a feeling, is part of what's going wrong with Ilion.
You get the sense that there's this larger conflict happening, which would also explain why at the temple, they're specifically training these women to fight and be warriors too. They're preparing for something, right? And just to be clear, Leah's whole quest, this book, to call it that, is she is trying to locate the eye. Part of that involves her sneaking out of the temple, breaking into different buildings, sometimes with the help of Jason, the sailor. She does break into this administrative building, which is one of the funniest scenes to me, because he was like, there are no soldiers here.
No, it's
but
not
there's something worse.
It's not the administrative building. It's the library that she breaks into.
Is it the library that has
and
it?
They have geese, and she's like, it's a bird. Like, I can handle it.
Never seen it.
But you guys know what geese are, and that they are mean little birds, right? And
little.
She does not fare well against the geese, and it is pretty hilarious.
She calls it a half snake, half bird, right? She's like slinking through the library. She comes to an aisle and describes it as being half her height. And at first she's like, oh, it's kind of cute. It seems harmless. And then it kind of bites her in the arm, just like clamps down on her, starts honking at her.
And she's like, or whatever it does with that beak.
Yeah, whatever.
Like,
it's chasing her through the library. But it killed me because he tried to warn her and she's like, a bird, whatever. And so she's like racing out of the library and looks over at him. I mean, he is losing his shit laughing.
Well, and so he makes a comment to her about, you didn't fare well, basically, right? And she's like, well, you can't even reason with them. Because she was trying to reason with it like you would a dog. Like, here, nice doggy. Here's some crumbs of treats. And it didn't care. And he's like, yeah, I've never met anybody like that.
She freaking sucker punches it in the chest. Like, she's just pissing it off now, Leah.
Yeah. But I do appreciate his snark and his wittiness, because like when she says you couldn't reason with it, he's like, oh yeah, I know somebody like that. Talking about her and the fact that he tried to reason with her to take it seriously, and she didn't.
This is when we like Jason, when he seemed like just a harmless, flirtatious hunk of a man.
And he's stealing kisses and trying to get her to go further. And you don't know this when he does this, well, you kind of do, because we hear about the fact that if you tell somebody you love them, you've just made like this unbreakable vow to them, right?
Yes.
And so we get told this at the beginning, where Quinn is refusing to say I love you to Andromachus because it's an unbreakable vow. And we see that her brother made it with Dara or something like that. So now she is not allowed to remarry, even though it's perceived that he's dead. And so she is just in mourning for the rest of her life. This 20-something-year-old girl is just mourning for this guy, which harkens back to Odysseus and Penelope right there. But anyway, and so he's trying, like, he fucking flat out asks her, do you love me? And she's like, I'm not saying that. Like, he's trying to get her to admit that she loves him so that, like, she is vowed to him.
Yes.
Because after this, we found out who he was.
It was stuff like that, those little stunts that he was trying to pull in the dreams. It starts wearing on you, right? You're like, why are you being this way? I am suddenly not trusting you, and I want to trust you because I like you. There's something at the temple, like a women's only kind of festival or something, right? Leah has had the wine. It's like the fairy wine in Akatar.
It's an aphrodisiac.
Okay? She horny.
Well, she was already that way with him.
She was already hot bothered.
But
and of course she meets up with him. She like goes to the outskirts of the party,
which we find out is not happenstance. It's not a coincidence. Somebody is giving him information about where she might be.
I wonder who it could be.
She ends up with him, and they end up, getting hot and heavy. And then she mentions that she might have drank something, and he's like, "Oh fuck!"
At least he did that.
Well, but I think that was his. I think if she had given herself to him in that moment, it wouldn't have been real, obviously. And he knows because he knows who he is. He knows it has to be real. So anyway, we find out something that night, which is that Io is a princess, right? And they're like, "Oh, I am too." And they're like, because Leah's like, "Oh, well,
Drunk.
we were almost sisters then." And Io's like, "We are sisters." And she's like, "No, like I'm betrothed to your brother." and
I'm a princess too.
yeah. And so they have this moment, which the next day Io acts like she doesn't even know what's going on and doesn't remember it. But then shit happens, and we find out the temple is under siege by Prince Alexandros, his man, who happens to be the fucker that took Quinn, right? Little redheaded devil.
Thrax.
So she is fit to be tied, right? And she is not wanting to go marry Jason or Alexandros. Oops, I let it slip. But
Xander.
yeah, who is Jason, but she doesn't know this at this point. So she does not want to marry Alexandros because she is still on her mission. And now she is even more mad because she has found out that Prince Alexandros is employing the man who took and presumably killed Quinn. She is not about it. And a few of the sisters, specifically the one that I just say is Artemisia, want to basically kick her out. Like, bye, Felicia. You're on your own. Whereas some of the others are like, no, we're not doing that. And they wait and take a vote. Little Mia, with all of her knowledge, is like, hey, no, she didn't break the rules because that specifically said a princess of Ilion cannot be here. Not a princess of her country. Bought her some time of being in there, and the sisters backing her. And then Prince Alexandros comes himself to tell her that she has to leave with him. And that is Jason.
He has leverage.
Yeah, and it's Jason. And he has leverage because he has Quinn. He has told her multiple times that he knows her better than anybody, and he does. He knows what's going to get her to leave that behind, and it is her family. And that is the fucking cliffhanger that we are left on.
It's leading up to the scene. There are a few key dreams that Leah has. As you mentioned, he's trying to get her to say that she loves him. But also he's like, when the time comes, say yes. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. And so she's still having a hard time grappling with what's happening in the dream being real. Like, they're going to remember this. And he's like, okay, I'm going to kiss your hand like this. Just like remember that, essentially. And at the end, like one of the end scenes of the book, he just kind of rips her hand out and just like, just like kisses it and just like backs off. Just this very much enemies to lovers kind of vibe between them.
Well,
but you know what,
we were
Tera?
lovers to enemies to lovers.
I mean, yeah. She was like a reluctant lover. Like, I'm so into you, and
I don't know why.
It. Yeah. You know, every time in the dream that she dreams about the goddess and she smells like irises, and she associates that smell with him as well because he has that iris scent. Okay, what is his connection here? Is maybe he a descendant of some kind, or
I think he's the god of war, because we've also got hinted at that the dire wolves were the god of wars, right? The ones hunting people, which they hunt her, right?
The Tera wolves.
Yeah. We got like his kind of connection to the iris smell. We've also got his prowess with the like killing of people, right? Like I think he's the goddess's son.
I'm gonna ship my chips with that one.
And I think she is the embodiment of the goddess.
Do you think the goddess's name is her name, Euthalia?
No,
you don't think so? Like, why is the goddess always whispering her true name? It's very weird. It makes me wonder if she shares a true name with the goddess.
Nobody wants to mention the goddess in her country, and so it'd be awkward to me for them to name their child the goddess's name. But maybe they forgot it
a long time ago.
Maybe they forgot
Grandma's
that
book.
It was it.
Her grandma's book.
Maybe grandma like accidentally just let drop the name. Like, oh, doesn't this sound like a cute little baby name?
It makes you wonder if grandma maybe could see the future or had some kind of seeing ability.
Or just when she was born, noticed that there was something different about her.
But I mean, all signs are that Leah is the savior. She's the one with the red hair, because when it starts growing back in, it's not light brown anymore.
I think grandma might have been something too. I don't know.
There's some witchcraft afoot here.
I have a feeling we're going to meet the goddess's daughter, so the Persephone type character at some point. Which, as you mentioned, Io loves flowers and stuff. I wonder if Io is the goddess's daughter. Because Persephone in mythology, that's how she got kidnapped, is she was picking flowers.
Is Io supposed to be the same age as Leah? I had a hard time like trying to know exactly how old
they were very similar in age.
Do you think Thrax is evil? He's the...
Well, see, I did at first, but now knowing that he is Alexandros' man and knowing who Alexandros is, I think that he was just doing bidding. He was basically told to go get them and get her because I need her as leverage, but also to make sure she's okay. So I have a feeling, yes, we're mad at Jason / Alexandros right now, but I have a feeling Quinn was not in danger and was not harmed in any way. That is the only thing that I'm holding out for right now, because if she was, like, Jason is dead to me.
Yes, I'm with you 100%.
I think I think that there was some good in that. He was trying to keep her safe so that Leah could make it to the temple. Because again, he thrashed the men in front of the temple, and when she called him out for it, he's like, they all owed me money. And she's like, they all did? He's like, yeah, wasn't it great that they just all decided to congregate together? That was super nice of them for me, because I just had to go right there.
How convenient. It just worked out like that.
So
But you know what?
I think he was trying to help them the whole time. Obviously, we know he was because of the arrows and the things. But I
Singing the song, Follow
yes,
the Blue. Or yeah.
I think that he kidnapped Quinn or killed Quinn or made her believe that Quinn was dead to allow for her to go ahead and do what she needed to do to get where she needed to go. And Thrax was basically there to make sure Quinn was safe.
Didn't before they set foot in the city to race for the temple, didn't she have this one-on-one conversation with Jason that she just wanted Quinn to be okay? She doesn't care about anything else. Like the only thing, like if he cares about her,
To make sure she's safe.
yes, make sure
And
she's safe.
to
And
bring her
Tara,
the dirt. So dirt is something because she makes him bring her dirt from her homeland. So dirt,
mhm.
there's some significance of the dirt, and I wonder if the red dirt is like the dirt of somebody's homeland.
Circling back to the Quinn thing, there was no way that Quinn was going to make it to the
Mm-mm.
temple and climb that alive. So he did do a favor, but it makes you wonder what's really going on at the palace that he's having to pretend to be this very icy, bad prince, this bad
Well,
person. Because when he was posturing at the gates when they were under
it was a
siege,
completely
it
different
was very
person.
compelling. It was very compelling. Yeah.
Well, I think, like I said, I think that the stepmom has something going on, and that is what we're seeing that she is saving the country from.
I wonder who she's could be modeled after.
Hera.
You think Hera?
Mhm. Hera was a bitch in Greek mythology. There's some connections we have not made yet, but yeah, I think stepmom sounds a lot like Hera because Hera did that kind of shit to Zeus's illegitimate children, like Hercules, driving Hercules insane. And the thing that I called out to Sandra at the very, very beginning of this book is what brought on the need to sacrifice their two women were a constellation called the Seven Sisters, which in Greek mythology, there are seven sisters and they're called the Muses.
We
Which
get a tattoo.
that's only five of them, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where this is gonna go.
I'm ready for July to come around to where we can read like and see what's coming because that was a cliffhanger.
Vow of Embers. I feel like Sariah did a really great job with her first romantasy. I was hooked. I didn't expect it to be this slow of a burn, right? But it's
Yes.
kind of baked into the plot. And there were pages and pages and pages of just makeout sessions, Tara.
Mhm.
I was like, are we ever gonna get a little bit more? Just a little bit more.
But it was very much a PG kind of a book, which I'm wondering if that's the audience that Sariah was going for.
You think
in her
so?
first, like maybe like a young adult kind of a thing. Because I was thinking the whole time in this book, Odyssey, and Carly is very much into Greek mythology and the Odyssey with me.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, I'm gonna make her read this book because I think she would enjoy this. There weren't the very, very smutty things that would make it to where I can't let my 13-year-old read this book. So I was kind of enjoying that, even though like I do like those parts too.
I mean, just the most intense kissing sessions, okay? They went on for pages.
And
literal
we
pages.
almost got there, but then dude turned the right way because she'd been drinking, which I mean consent is sexy. So
Yes.
he wanted to make sure he had her consent when she wasn't drinking, an aphrodisiac. But I think there's
Yeah.
more to that, but like in our terms, like that was his.
Uh-huh.
I still think that there's something more to that. He knows something that aphrodisiac does besides just be an aphrodisiac.
Here's the part that's unclear to me about our fair Jason / Prince Alexandro / hot Xander, whenever we get to meet him that way.
Okay,
in the
don't
next
say that
book.
because that's what his sister calls him. Okay, she calls him Xander, so you can't add the hot in front of that because that's just a little incestuous and a bit too much Greek. Okay,
I mean, I feel like that's
like that's
a
like an
bit much,
Oedipus
but
thing, kind of like incestuous family bonds, marrying each other, whatever. So let's not throw that into Sariah's head because I want.
but Leah's family, they're calling her nickname. I mean, I guess everybody calls her that, but
I know,
yeah.
but like we didn't call her sexy Leah, okay? Like I feel like just adding that like connotation of it being a sexual thing in
So,
front of the name is a little troubling to me
shade.
because I'm the one who always points out, is it his dad? Is it?
Yeah, spark of the
I do
Everflame,
not want
Tara.
this to be an incestuous thing, and with it being Greek, I just want to put that out there, okay?
We got to make sure in this. Here's the part that is unclear to me. At what point did Prince Alexandros Jason know that she was the princess? Did he know the whole time? Did he know a little bit before his little sister told him?
Oh.
Like when?
I think when she talked to that dragon.
You think when she, why? Why the dragon?
Well, because the dragon is a mystical thing I just caught onto something. The
I
dragons,
love the light bulb moments.
the dragons went away when the goddess's son left. There was something to do with the god of war and the dragons.
All the dragon types?
No, I think it was just one dragon type, but it was the god of war and the dragons, and they disappeared. And then we see her talking to a different dragon type. So I think he caught on to who she was.
Yeah, she was about to just step overboard.
Because the dragon was like talking to her.
Had her mesmerized like a snake almost.
And it was like she didn't get nefarious feelings off of it. And I didn't either. The dragon seemed kind of cute.
I would have wanted to take a ride on the dragon too. That sounds sexual. That's not how I meant it.
Yeah, it did.
So you think he knew then?
I think he had an inkling that she was something at that point. I don't know if he knew that she was the princess, but I think he knew that she was his person.
Depending on when he knew. That's how mad I could potentially be at him in these games that he was playing.
But Io didn't know who she was until
No.
like very end, and he had already like asked her if she loved him. To me, that's either he knew who she was and he wanted her to admit it to where they had a vow and he could go and get her, or he was trying to get out of his betrothal by getting somebody else to say that they loved him and forming that vow with the person that he wanted to marry. It could be one of two things there. He knew already, or he didn't and he wants her, and so he was trying to create that vow. And then the next day his sister tells him who she was, and then he's like, oh bitch, I can do this. and then goes and gets her that way. He's like, there's 2 ways to skin this cat.
At the end, when he was trying to force her into saying yes and marrying him, in my head, Tara, I was like, bitch, if I finally saw
She's
that
more
Jason
stubborn
and
than the
him,
geese, okay?
yes, she is more stubborn than the geese. The moment that I learned that Jason and the prince were the same person, I would have been like, yes, okay.
Well, no, because at that point, we're mad at him, Sandra, okay? Stop thinking
I
with
know,
your
but
nether
like,
regions and think with, like, the brain, because dude has been lying to us, red flagging it up all over the place.
I can fix him.
Taylor. But Daddy, I love him.
I'm mad that he's using Quinn as leverage,
Mhm.
but
That's a
we
big red
weren't.
flag.
Yeah, but also the book, interestingly enough, did not go into any detail about what the sister was looking like, just that her head was covered. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
surely he's taking care of
I
her.
think he took care of her, and we're gonna find out that he did, and he did it just so that he could take that burden
Mm.
off of Leah. And ooh, another thing, light bulb moments all over the place right here. So Quinn intentionally did not tell Andromachus that she loved him. What if it's because I think Quinn foresaw some things, like she foresaw something happening to her the next day, and so she gave her bracelet that Quinn's mom gave her that was supposed to be like good luck or whatever. I think that that's important, and I think Quinn foresaw that. So I think Quinn foresaw the fact that Andromachus was not her person, and so she did not want to create that vow. He was fun for now, but not my person. What do you want to bet? Like Thrax is her person.
Oh,
Or something
they're
like that. Like
polar
I
opposites.
feel like Quinn has found her person, and she knew she was
like
going
that.
to.
I could stand behind that.
And so she
I'll
knew
watch
she
that.
wouldn't need the luck. And Leah perceived that as she's giving up, but I think Quinn knew she was going to be safe.
Mm.
And so she gave the luck to Leah.
There was so much drama in this book, but I am so ready to see the drama at the palace in the next book. Hopefully it's a little unhinged,
Okay.
as the Greeks do.
And again, I did not know we were going to do this, and I mentioned that I wanted to keep the Greek feeling alive. And so next month we are reading A Song of Achilles, which Achilles is a member of the Greek war team of the Trojan War. So we are going to see a different angle of the Trojan War in book, because we're going to see his love story with Patroclus.
Do you think maybe Leah being the savior, like maybe her whole thing is going to be just stopping the war or all this bad shit from happening? I mean, yeah, she's trying
Like
to save
go
her own
back in the
country.
past and stop the original war?
No, the one that's coming, surely. I feel like there's one coming.
Like, who would they be going to war against? Because Leah's country's poor. They can't fight. They don't have, like,
Exactly.
things.
I think if anyone's going to go to war, I feel like they would have to, because they've been pushed back so far that they're in this corner of desperation.
Yeah, but they seem happy in their
ooh.
desperation. So we did hear about 2 other warring countries, right, though? What were they called? General's country.
Daemonia?
And there was a C one, I thought. And one of the sisters is from this country. I feel like it's Suri is from this country.
Caria? Caria?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe we'll get to see more of these places in the next book. July 8th.
And more
happy
dragons.
Birthday. Yeah. I could stand behind that. I did like the Terror Wolves too. It was a nifty little scene.
Those in Greek mythology are Hades.
Hades.
His thing. So again, like we're seeing this Persephone Hades kind of vibe going on too.
It's like who are the groups sending all these men and stuff after her? Mm-hmm. I can't wait to meet the mom.
The stepmom?
Jason, his stepmom. Mm-hmm. But Chryseis. Chryseis is the one betrothed to Callisto's the sister wanted to marry, right? This beautiful Princess Chryseis or whoever she is.
Oh, yes.
Because Leah was a little jealous.
Yeah, because Jason also said that everybody wants her, and she's like, oh, do you?
She was so jelly the whole time. But you know what? When you're 18,
and you have your first, like, you're a little immature with that love.
Possessive, a little jealous. Yeah. This was a fun book.
And dude,
you'll have to let me know.
Dude was playing on that too, because he was doing everything in his power to make her jealous.
He scored brownie points with me though when he was like, I haven't even looked at another woman since I
haven't.
You.
Well, no, he said, I haven't seen another woman tonight. And she's like,
he
they're all around. And he's like, no, I haven't seen another woman tonight. But dude at the brothel was like, he was trying to make her jealous. In so many other ways, and other times he was trying. But I think that night he wanted it to go further, right? And he wanted to admit that he loved her, and he wanted her to admit that she loved him. And the alcohol really, really thwarted his plans, because I think he was ready.
Don't drink and make decisions, people.
Yeah, he was ready, I think, and she ruined that for him, which also then made it bad, because I think Io told her the next day that she was the princess.
I had a thought. The guy that is always in charge of seeing the maidens go to voyage that they saw in the tavern. Do we think he's bad?
I don't know about bad. I think we might see him again.
I'm like, what is his end game here? Is he a spy? Obviously, he knows everything if he's always the one there.
But he's also like had his tongue cut out or something. Like he can't talk,
but
he can write.
He can't read, but he can't. He's illiterate, because that was one thing about him.
But like, how hard is it to do? Like a crown. Yeah. like charades here. Charades it.
I suck at that game. He's probably better at it than me, but
well, yeah, because if he can't talk or write, he has to charades his whole life. He
would be the perfect. Oh, did you think at any point that the bird? I know I keep thinking about random shit in this book, but the bird,
the little raven,
the raven, the way its feathers are described and how it matches Jason Alexandro's hair and stuff. At one point, I was like, he's a shifter, or he can turn into a bird, or he's talking to this bird. There's something with the bird. There still might be something with the bird, but I could see something like that being with a guy that can't speak for himself or read.
Or like there were animals attributed to goddesses and gods. Like Athena's animal was an owl. So maybe we're not like going full tilt that we're pulling an owl in, but like maybe the bird is sent by the goddess, right, to help her.
I like the bird.
Or because I seriously think that he has something to do with the goddess. He's like the sun, or maybe he is. I don't want to say he is the goddess because that might be a little far fetched. But like maybe he is something that has his own like animal familiar.
He did say little birdie told me.
hmm
So,
But then she tried to get the bird to talk, and she's like, "Oh, okay, never
but you
mind."
know what? I swear to God, there were times during this book when she was describing the bird's behavior, like trying to fuck around with Artemisia and
It was
stuff.
real.
Like that was his personality
Yeah.
for sure. Like that's shit he would do. Just makes you wonder.
There was a point where he didn't know something happened, and he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, who did this?" Like when she got stabbed, right? He didn't know that happened. The bird also coincidentally disappeared around that time. Because remember when the dire
Yes, it
wolves
wasn't.
attacked, or the whatever, the bird wasn't there. And she's like, "We could have used you." So there were
Mm.
points where the bird disappeared, and he didn't know what was happening at those points.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like you're onto something with that connection. Like the bird is his spy or something.
Ooh, I like that.
And
Let's
the
go with
bird,
that.
is it Io that the bird's connected to? Like whose like bird is this?
I want to say it's not Suri, is it?
But it is one of the sisters' birds. So maybe he
Yeah, it's
like
not Io.
maybe he like gave it to them to protect his sister or something, and it's
Maybe,
now
yeah.
doing double duty protecting his person, his like mate.
There's got to be something more with the Sisters of the Adelphia, though, because they can't just ship Leah off to the palace to be his betrothed for whatever. And I'm sure like her parents are going to be wondering what the fuck happened with her and Quinn. So there's going to be conflict
Well, but
there.
she
And then it's
sent
what
the
happens
letter
with
out.
the sisters. She did. Hopefully the guy that she paid an awful lot of salt to gets it there.
And that was a good like way of telling people that she was alive. Tell her commander or whatever that his daughter is alive, and then she just knew that he would understand that it's me.
She's trying to be so slick.
Yeah, Jason didn't believe her, or maybe he did. I don't know. We
Yeah, I
don't
don't
know
know.
when Jason
Maybe-
found out. Maybe that's when he found out, and he's like, "Yeah, you're not that old dude's daughter."
Or maybe he found out in the very beginning of the book, whenever she was cracking a joke like, "Yeah, I don't plan on marrying my betrothed."
And he's like, "I'm your fucking betrothed, bitch."
Oh, I love the snarky Tera.
He's like,
Anyway.
I will do whatever it takes. Maybe he's just as stubborn as she is, and that line right there got him to like fall in love with
Dude,
her because he
no.
has to prove that she will marry her betrothed.
I mean, it would kind of make sense if he did know from the beginning with how hard he was pushing the whole time to get into her good graces. Like he knew. And he's like, this is what I want. This is what I want. And she was just like in denial the whole time.
Yeah, she's like,
I
no.
would have been like, take me. No.
Sandra's a little bit easier than Leah is.
I'm a hoe. I'm a hoe. Anyway, okay. We could just ramble on and on about this book forever.
Thoroughly enjoyed this book.
Yay. A Song of Achilles next. I've read this book already, so I'm going to reread it.
I have not. So Sandra might know this book better than me because with this one, and it's probably going to be the same, like I'm getting confused like what was in this book and what was in the Greek mythology that I've read millions of times.
Yeah, I was getting this jumbled with Firebird, so put that one on your list.
I will.
There's dragons.
Woo.
A Vow of Embers, July 8th. I know what I'm getting myself for my birthday.
I'm getting myself a nap after this. Woo.
Yeah. Hopefully I can eat a big fat steak. Anyway, finish my beer and read some Emily Henry. Yay!
You are turning a little bit red, so she's a lightweight, guys.
I have a fun time, y'all. Okay, I'm gonna go have a fun time with my book now.
We'll see you next month.
Okay, cool. Bye.
Bye.